Christine Brown sat across from Suki Krishnan and finally said the things she had kept buried for decades. Things she had never allowed herself to say out loud, let alone on national television. She spoke about her marriage to Kody Brown in a way that instantly shattered the image viewers had been shown for years. What she described wasn't intimacy. It wasn't love. It was empty, cold, and painfully detached. She said it felt mechanical, emotionless, like two people going through motions without any real connection. And in that moment, everything the audience thought they understood about the Brown family began to fall apart. If Christine could barely tolerate being close to the man she married for 25 years, then what did that say about the smiling family photos, the spiritual speeches about plural marriage, the carefully crafted story TLC had sold for over a decade? Christine made it clear that the cracks weren't new. The foundation had been broken from the very start. For years, there had been an unspoken rule. What happened behind closed doors was never discussed. Kody enforced that silence. Bedroom issues were private, sacred, off-limits. None of the wives were supposed to talk about it. But Christine broke that rule during the Sister Wives tell-all in mid-2025. Then she broke it again when her memoir was released months later. And this time, she didn't hold back. She pulled the curtain all the way back and revealed what life inside that marriage was really like. What made her confessions hit so hard wasn't just what she said, but when she said it. While Kody was publicly insisting that he had loved Christine, that he had tried, that the marriage failed because she couldn't handle plural life, Christine was calmly describing a relationship so devoid of care that it took 2 full years before she experienced her first orgasm. That wasn't an awkward detail. It was proof. Proof that her needs had never been a priority. Christine met Kody when she was still a teenager. She watched him marry Mary, then Yanel. By the time she was barely in her 20s, she decided she wanted to be part of that family. She told Kody she'd marry him, and he took her words as a proposal. Just months later, they were spiritually married. Christine had saved everything for that moment. Her first kiss. Her first real touch. She had dreamed of tenderness, connection, and feeling cherished. Instead, those dreams collapsed almost immediately. On their wedding night, there was no romance, no gentleness, no emotional build-up. The experience was so painful that she cried. There was no consideration for the fact that this was her first time, no effort to make her feel safe or loved. Kody already had experience. He had already been married twice. But according to Christine, he showed no care at all. And the pain didn't stop there. For the rest of their honeymoon, she was too sore to even try again. Christine assumed things would improve once real life began. They didn't. She moved into a shared trailer with Kody and the other wives. The walls were thin, and that's when the reality truly set in. She could hear Kody laughing with the other women. She could hear connection, warmth, enjoyment. She knew exactly what kind of intimacy was happening in those rooms, and it sounded nothing like what she experienced. With Christine, Kody was distant, cold, uninterested. Over time, intimacy with him became something she described as just barely okay. Not loving, not passionate, just tolerable. And it took 2 years before it felt like anything other than an obligation. That realization cut deep. A young woman, newly married, supposedly loved, yet feeling invisible in the most intimate part of her life. Then things took an even darker turn. Kody began making demands. Before he would consider being intimate, Christine was expected to give him a full hour-long massage. Every single time. She rubbed his back, his shoulders, his legs, his entire body. 60 minutes of service before he would give her anything. And he never returned the favor. When Christine once asked if he would even rub her shoulders, he refused. He said he was tired. He said it didn't do anything for him. Slowly, intimacy became transactional. Christine felt like she had to earn even the smallest amount of closeness. She initiated every time because Kody never did. And even when it happened, it felt flat and disconnected. An hour of effort from her in exchange for something that left her feeling empty. She didn't know if the other wives were expected to do the same. They never talked about it. That silence kept her trapped and isolated. When Robin entered the family, everything became painfully clear. Christine was pregnant, carrying Kody's child, while watching him fall in love with someone else. She saw him light up. She saw him prioritize another woman. And suddenly, she realized what had always been missing. Kody never cared for her emotionally, romantically, physically, or financially. She had been doing everything alone, raising 6 children with little support, convincing herself this was normal. Christine later described their intimacy as something that felt required rather than wanted. A duty. A box to check. When Suki asked her directly if that's how it felt, Christine didn't hesitate. They were using each other. There was no love in it. Eventually, Christine asked Kody if intimacy was ever going to return to their marriage. His answer was blunt. No. And when he showed up again, she told him it was over. Her memoir revealed even more. She described stopping the massages because she couldn't keep giving without receiving anything back. Somehow, Robin found out. Robin confronted her, defending Kody and questioning why Christine stopped. That moment confirmed everything Christine had suspected. Kody had discussed their private life with Robin. The sacred privacy rule only applied when it protected him. The pattern became impossible to ignore. Kody demanded service. When that service stopped, he complained. Robin defended him. And Christine's needs were never part of the equation. When Christine finally left, Kody tried to control the story. He claimed he wasn't attracted to her. He framed intimacy as something she had to earn through obedience. He used it as punishment. But Christine's truth exposed the reality. The problem was never her. It was a man who demanded everything and gave nothing. Then came David. And the contrast was immediate. Christine smiled again. She laughed. She glowed. David showed her affection without conditions. He made her feel desired, valued, and loved without her having to beg. In less than 2 years, she experienced more connection than she had in 25. That's what made everything else impossible to ignore. Christine wasn't broken. Plural marriage wasn't the core issue. Kody was. Because real intimacy doesn't require payment. Real love doesn't withhold affection. Real partnership gives as much as it takes. Christine broke the silence, and in doing so, she changed everything. The truth was out. The illusion was gone. And there was no way to pretend anymore that any of it had ever been okay. Christine Brown sat under the studio lights and crossed a line she had been trained for years never to cross. She spoke openly, calmly, and without protecting anyone anymore. What she revealed wasn't gossip. It was the truth she'd been swallowing for decades. She described a marriage that lacked warmth, desire, and emotional connection. What she experienced with Kody Brown wasn't intimacy at all. It felt distant, robotic, and hollow. 2 people sharing space, not love. That single admission cracked the entire image viewers had believed in for years. Because if a woman could stay married for 25 years and still feel that disconnected, then nothing about the story made sense anymore. The smiles. The speeches about faith. The promises that plural marriage created stronger families. Christine's words exposed something far darker. The relationship didn't slowly fall apart. It never truly worked to begin with. Inside the family, there was a strict understanding. Certain things were never discussed, especially anything involving the bedroom. Kody enforced that boundary. Intimacy was private, untouchable, not meant for public conversation. That silence wasn't accidental. It kept the women separated and protected one person's image. Christine followed that rule for years. Until she didn't. During the 2025 tell-all, she finally broke it. And when her memoir came out shortly after, she shattered it completely. What stunned people most wasn't how honest she was, but how her honesty contradicted everything Kody was saying at the same time. While he insisted he had loved her and claimed the marriage failed because she couldn't handle the lifestyle, Christine was quietly revealing how little her needs had ever mattered. She admitted that it took years before she felt any sense of pleasure or connection at all. Years of marriage before intimacy stopped feeling like something she simply endured. Christine entered that marriage young and hopeful. She had watched Kody build his family with other wives and believed joining it would bring belonging and love. When she committed fully. She had saved herself emotionally and physically, believing that moment would be special, meaningful, and safe. She imagined tenderness and reassurance. She imagined being cherished. Instead, the reality hit fast and painfully. There was no softness, no patience, no sense that her experience mattered. The moment she had waited her entire life for left her in tears. And that wasn't a one-night disappointment. The discomfort followed her into the rest of their early marriage. She kept telling herself it would improve once real life settled in. It didn't. When she moved into shared living spaces with the other wives, the illusion collapsed. The walls were thin enough to reveal what she wasn't receiving. She could hear laughter, conversation, ease, connection. She could tell that intimacy existed elsewhere in that household, just not with her. With Christine, Kody felt distant and detached, as if he were merely checking a box rather than building a bond. That was when the quiet realization began to form. Something wasn't right. And it went far beyond physical intimacy. It was about being unseen, unprioritized. Slowly learning that her presence in the marriage didn't guarantee care, affection, or emotional safety. And that realization would eventually change everything. As the years went on, Christine tried to convince herself that what she was feeling was normal. She told herself that marriage was work, that plural marriage came with sacrifices, that maybe closeness wasn't supposed to look the same for everyone. But deep down, something never sat right. The longer she stayed, the clearer it became that her needs were quietly disappearing from the equation. Intimacy with Kody didn't grow. It didn't deepen. It didn't become warmer with time. If anything, it became more distant. Christine eventually realized that she was always the one reaching out. Always the one trying. Kody never initiated. Never pursued her. If intimacy happened at all, it was because Christine made it happen. And even then, there were conditions. Before Kody would consider being close to her, Christine was expected to give him a long, full-body massage. Not a few minutes. Not a small gesture of affection. An entire hour. Every time. She rubbed his back, his shoulders, his legs, his arms, giving everything she had just to reach the possibility of closeness. It wasn't mutual. It wasn't loving. It felt like a requirement. What made it worse was that nothing came back to her. Kody never offered the same care in return. When Christine once asked if he could even rub her shoulders, he dismissed it. He said he was tired. He said it didn't interest him. That moment stayed with her. It confirmed what she had already been feeling. Foreplay, effort, tenderness, those things were for him, not for her. Slowly, intimacy turned into a transaction. Christine felt like she had to earn the right to be touched. And even after giving an hour of effort, what followed felt flat and disconnected. There was no passion, no emotional closeness, just something done because it was expected. She didn't know if the other wives experienced the same thing. The family rules made sure those conversations never happened. No one compared notes. No one checked in. Christine carried the confusion alone, wondering if this was just how marriage worked or if something was deeply wrong with her. Then Robin entered the family, and everything Christine had been questioning became impossible to ignore. She watched Kody fall in love in real time. She saw excitement, attention, effort, things she had never received. And she saw it while she was pregnant, carrying his child. That contrast hurt more than anything else. It forced her to confront a truth she had avoided for years. Kody had never treated her the way he treated Robin. Not emotionally. Not romantically. Not physically. Christine had spent years raising children largely on her own, managing a household without real partnership, and accepting scraps of attention as if they were enough. Watching Kody prioritize someone else made it clear that what she lacked wasn't imagination. It was care. When Christine later described their relationship, she said intimacy felt like obligation, not desire. Something that happened because it was expected, not because it was wanted. When she was asked directly if that's how it felt, she didn't hesitate. There was no emotion in it. No tenderness. Just two people fulfilling a role. Eventually, Christine asked Kody a simple, devastating question. Was intimacy ever coming back to their marriage? His answer was blunt. No. There was no discussion. No attempt to understand how that would affect her. Just a closed door. And in that moment, Christine realized she couldn't keep living in a marriage where closeness was conditional and her needs were optional. The silence she had lived with for decades was finally breaking, and once it broke, there was no way to put it back together. Christine's decision to speak up didn't just stop at the tell-all. Her memoir pushed the truth even further into the open. She detailed the endless cycle she had been trapped in for years, giving, serving, accommodating, while receiving almost nothing in return. The hour-long massages, the forced mechanical intimacy, the complete absence of foreplay, the lack of emotional connection, it wasn't just a pattern. It was a system that made her needs irrelevant. Things came to a head with Robin. Somehow, Robin learned that Christine had stopped giving Kody the massages she had been performing for years. Instead of asking or understanding, Robin confronted her, defending Kody's behavior and demanding an explanation. That confrontation was a betrayal on multiple levels. Not only had Kody gone to Robin to complain about Christine's private life, but Robin had also chosen to side with him. The silence Christine had been forced to keep was broken, and in the process, her vulnerability had been weaponized against her. Christine realized something crucial in that moment. This wasn't just about her. The system Kody had built relied on control, manipulation, and enforcing rules that served him alone. Each wife had her own version of unmet needs, but no one spoke up because silence was demanded. When Christine finally refused to comply, the cracks became undeniable. Kody didn't care about her pleasure. He didn't care about her emotions. He didn't invest in her life in any meaningful way. His marriages weren't about partnership, they were about extraction. This truth reshaped everything. Fans who had been watching for decades could finally piece together what had been happening behind closed doors. The moments when Christine appeared tired, withdrawn, or unhappy suddenly made sense. Every argument about Kody's absence, every visible frustration, every look of resignation, they were the result of neglect, not failure on her part. Christine had been giving her whole self for 25 years, only to be met with apathy and exploitation. And yet, she refused to let it define her any longer. She found David Woolley. Their connection was immediate and starkly different. Where Kody had taken, David gave. Where Kody had been distant, David was present. Where Kody demanded, David reciprocated. In less than 2 years, Christine experienced the kind of affection, attention, and partnership she had spent decades missing. Every touch, every compliment, every shared laugh was proof that she had not been the problem, Kody had been. By telling her story, Christine not only reclaimed her voice but also forced viewers to confront the real reason her marriage had failed. It wasn't plural marriage. It wasn't her. It was a man who refused to care, to give, to connect. She had been conditioned to serve, to endure, and to remain silent, but she broke that pattern, and the effects rippled outward. Other wives began seeing their experiences in a new light, questioning what they had been accepting for years. Christine's revelations were more than shocking, they were transformative. They exposed a system built on control, selfishness, and emotional neglect, and they gave her the freedom to find love and intimacy on her own terms. For the first time, she wasn't living to meet someone else's needs. She was finally living for herself. The final chapter of Christine's story wasn't just about ending a marriage, it was about discovering what love could truly feel like. After years of giving everything to Kody and receiving almost nothing in return, Christine finally found someone who treated her differently. David Woolley wasn't extraordinary in the sense of grand gestures or flashy displays. What made him remarkable was his presence, his attention, and his willingness to prioritize Christine's happiness without being asked. From the moment they met on a dating app in late 2022, Christine felt seen in a way she never had. By Valentine's Day 2023, their relationship was public, and every interaction radiated warmth, affection, and genuine connection. Within months, they were engaged, and by October, they were married. Less than 2 years after meeting, Christine was experiencing the kind of emotional and physical intimacy she had been denied for 25 years. She smiled more, laughed more, and radiated a joy that viewers hadn't seen in decades. During the tell-all, Suki showed a montage of Christine and David's public displays of affection, holding hands, kissing, cuddling on camera. David even teased her, "Well, you were starved for attention." Christine laughed, embarrassed but unable to deny it. She had been starved for affection, for connection, for someone to care without condition. And now, she was finally receiving it. David's love wasn't complicated or conditional. He told her she was beautiful every day. He valued her feelings, her desires, her pleasure. He treated her like a partner, not a servant. Every interaction reminded Christine that she was worthy of attention and care, that her needs mattered. It wasn't magic, it was basic respect and love. But for someone who had endured decades of neglect, it felt revolutionary. This stark contrast between her life with Kody and her life with David made one thing painfully clear. Christine had never been the problem. Plural marriage had never been the problem. Kody had been the problem. Because David didn't do anything extraordinary, he simply cared. He reciprocated. He loved. That was all Christine had wanted all along. Christine's courage to speak openly didn't just free her, it forced the truth into the public eye. Viewers finally understood what had been hidden behind decades of smiles and cameras. Kody's failures were undeniable, demanding hours of service before offering intimacy, withholding affection as punishment, ignoring emotional needs, and weaponizing intimacy to control and manipulate. Christine's voice exposed the truth, and it changed everything. In the end, Christine wasn't just surviving, she was thriving. She had reclaimed her life, her pleasure, and her self-worth. She had found a love that met her needs and respected her entirely. And as viewers watched her glow next to David, the full weight of her past became clear. 25 years of neglect, of unmet needs, of silent suffering, had ended. Christine had finally found what every person deserves: love, connection, and equality in a partnership. The silence was broken. The truth was revealed. And Christine Brown had emerged stronger, freer, and happier than she had ever been.